welcome to Lab Rats. We are back. It's been a long hiatus of not doing episodes, and it's not been because we don't want to. It's been because I've been so dang busy on set, working on productions, building our production company, FilmLaab, and also hosting a film festival. It was our first film festival we ever hosted. The goal really was to make it a very low stakes, achievable, and just open door type of an experience. I wanted individuals who have been in the film industry for well over a decade, who are very experienced, to come in and want to submit and create films. And I also wanted it to be a place where individuals who had never created a film, who'd never actually made videos or had to take something from start to finish themselves, I wanted them to feel comfortable enough to submit and get involved. And that's exactly what happened. And that's kind of the point of today's podcast. And what I wanted to do was, number one, kind of recap the experience we had of hosting this film festival, what it took to kind of pull it off, but even more deeply wanted to highlight the 4 directors or individuals who actually put together their own short films and won our 4 awards. So we had awards for the best story, the best edit, the best cinematography, and just the grand prize, best overall. So every contestant took different prompts and did a different approach, but I absolutely loved seeing their own individuality expressed in the way that they walked through everything. So the goal here is I wanted to bring them in, sit them down for a podcast, talk through kind of their experience with creating the film, some of the inspiration behind it, some of the lessons that they learned as well, and really just kind of dive into the experience overall. So without further ado, let's go on to our first guest. Ethan, welcome. Thanks for coming out, bro. And again, thank you so much for submitting your film to our little festival. Obviously, it was a small crowd. We had like 100 people, but it felt big because it was packed in that space. And what I loved about your film was how anxiety invoking it was. And people watching this haven't seen it yet, but they will at the end of this. So I wanted to dive in and hear a little bit about what was kind of the inspiration behind the film. Like, how did you approach it?
So the inspiration for the film is the day previous. I was just washing the dishes and literally just thought of like, if I put a knife up in the tray, like what are the odds somebody could fall on that? Like I've always been
catastrophic.
Yeah. So my dad always taught us to put like the knives up so they'd wash better, but there's always that chance, you know? So I don't know. It just came into my head the day before and I was like, that would be something really easy to make. So the next day, I just invited my friend over and we just shot it.
And I mean, it was shot so well. Like the scene, like the location, just what was that place, man? Like it was so like weird, rundown, unique. I don't know.
That is actually where I live, and that is our kitchen.
Then I'm sorry for saying that.
Okay.
That's so funny.
It's under construction, so it does really bring in a grungy look.
Yeah, kind of chaotic environment. It was interesting.
Like a Fight Club looking kitchen, you know?
Yeah, or like The Bear if it was under construction. So cool. I love that. And I love that also you had the idea and the next day you did something about it. And that's actually something I've noticed from you, that you put out a lot of shorts, that you create a lot of stuff where a lot of people just don't actually do it. And I feel like this is going to be a theme with everybody that we talk to, is the people we're talking to here now are the people who actually just had an idea and executed on it. That's obviously serving you well. And that's why you won Best Story, because it was so unique. It was so anxiety provoking. So what would you say was kind of the hardest part about pulling off the production, whether it's in the actual concepting, the shooting, or editing? What was the most difficult part of pulling it off?
So for this little film that we did, I'd say the number one hardest thing was our time limit. My friend came over and we needed an actor and a cameraman, and he had to leave. We only had like an hour and a half to shoot. So we had to get all the shots we needed necessary to tell the story and provoke the emotions that we needed to. And so we had to really hone in on what are the shots we absolutely need. And so, and it was also, you know, we didn't write it. We were just coming up as we went. It was really simple project, kind of for fun.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the challenges for this film.
It's just the short time limit. Yeah. But I mean, if you shot this in an hour and a half and like it did really well, it was a strong idea that you executed on. So I absolutely love that. What would you say was kind of your favorite frame or your favorite moment from the actual film?
Yeah, my favorite moment ended up being this zoom shot I got of the knife, because originally we were actually going to act out me falling on the knife and get a couple different angles and tape the knife to my face and show it stuck in my head. But because of time's sake, we had to kind of come up with a creative way to get around having to do that. And one of the best tricks in film is just showing all you need to show and adding some sound effects. And I actually got that shot after my friend left, which was, just one of the last shots I needed to make it work. And so I feel like that zoom shot, that's all you need to know. That's like the person falling onto the knife is with the camera movement, and then you see the blood splatter, and you just know that that's what happened. That's usually, and when I've showed it to people, that's usually when people are like, oh.
Yeah, so, it's that, yeah, it's just like, oh no, my worst fears are now being made manifest. And, there's that saying in film, show, don't tell. And you didn't like have to over explain. You didn't have to you trusted your audience enough in that moment instead of just seeing the actual like sticking in the face or whatever, right? You trusted them enough to be able to draw the conclusion and to feel that. And I think it was actually more artsy that way. So I liked the approach. I thought it was really well done. What would be kind of the number one lesson you learned while making this film? And with just the entire experience of submitting to a film festival or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so when it comes to this, one of the lessons I learned is you can make something great. You can make a simple idea great. And if you just go out and do it and then invite your friend over, like I said before, it was really just a fun exercise that we were gonna do. We just wanted to get our camera out, and my friend, he just got a new camera, and we're just like, hey, let's just shoot something. So I actually originally did not have intentions of submitting it to the festival, and then Austin Brady was like, hey, you should just submit it, see what happens. And so I ended up doing it because it was right in that minute time frame, and worked out well. So I'd say one of the lessons that I learned is don't doubt the impact of a simple idea.
I love that. Well, give us some advice, man, for the film festival, because obviously that was our first one, right? We just had some prompts. We said, let's do it under a minute, all the films. And, we had a great location and whatever to host it. What some advice would you give, or what would you like to see in our second iteration of this film festival?
I think this first one was great. I think it was a really great idea to get a lot of filmmakers from around Utah and, wherever to come together and just celebrate making films in a minute time frame. That was a nice time frame to have be an excuse to just go out and do it. Maybe you guys might consider, like I think you were talking about, having another category with longer films. So I really think though you should keep the sub 60 because that's pretty unique, and I feel like that can catch some traction pretty fast. But yeah, also having like another category would be awesome. Like maybe within a 10-minute time frame or something like that. And then also, just seeing a lot more people. Like I feel like I totally need to get the word out about some of the festivals, these new emerging festivals, and especially yours, and getting more people to join, and then potentially maybe having a few more categories for people to win some awards as well and get appreciated for their little niche. People are very talented in some different areas, and film is a huge, all the arts coming together, and so there could be a bunch of different ideas there with awards and stuff. So
I love that. Totally agree, because I want to give more people a platform, more of an opportunity. And for some, I bet the sub 60 was something that got them involved and made them be like, okay, this is achievable. And others might have been like, I wish it was longer. I can't tell a story in that long, or at least the way I would want to, yada, yada. So being able to kind of open that up and then, like you said, acknowledge other aspects and other types of awards for different ways they approached it or created it or whatever. So, but yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on and just giving us a little bit of your time and a little bit of insight into your process and kind of just pulling back the curtain, being like, hey, you don't need to overcomplicate this. A good idea can stand on its own, and I think you really expressed that well today. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hey guys, just a little interjection here. Obviously, you're listening to us talk about these films. If you want to see the actual finished pieces by these incredible directors, go to our YouTube channel where you're going to see a Lab Takes episode where we break this all down and we actually showcase the films. So go check that out now if you're interested. So Zane, your film was by and far one of the best edits there was. Just the creativity behind it, it was so apparent. And so when we were kind of going through and saying, all right, who's going to win the award for the best edit? It was obvious it was yours.
Oh,
and so
you.
I wanted to kind of dive in and thanks for coming in, but I wanted to dive in and kind of hear from you. What was kind of your inspiration behind the film? Because this is a very unique take on the whole Left Behind prompt. So walk me through that.
Yeah, totally. So it's funny, I saw the prompts and I was like, I don't know, I don't really have anything that's coming to mind. And I was filling up my car with gas and Maria Menounos came on the little, TV at the gas pump. And she's like talking about this meditation thing. And I was like, oh, what if you were like astral projecting? Because that's like a thing, Doctor Strange, has that a bunch. And then you leave your body and then you see someone else take it and leave you behind. Like that would suck.
That would suck.
That would suck really bad. Anyway, and I was like, oh man, that's super dark. Because I'm not like, I'm not a really dark person. Everyone who hears this idea, they're like, what? That's like super.
That's not you.
Yeah, super creepy. But I have a philosophy that I think ideas want to be born. And I think they come to you and you just need to do them. You need to make them or they're going to go to somebody else. So I just went with it. And and that's kind of the inspiration. I also really love, I love cautionary tales. I don't think we tell them enough. I think there's always a happy ending. There's always like another opportunity or chance. But I think in life, there's a lot of times when you miss opportunities. And one of my favorite books is called The Wind Is My Mother, and it's about a Native American shaman, right? And he talks about cautionary tales like that that the Native Americans will tell each other. And so this piece is totally that. It's just a cautionary tale that just kind of leaves you with like, oh, dang. But the idea of like, if you relinquish control over yourself, something or someone is going to take it over. So that's kind of the thought process behind it.
Yeah, that is such an interesting take. And I literally, if I looked at that, I never would have gone there. But that I think is what's fun with rubbing shoulders with other creatives is saying how it's, because when we were coming up with these prompts, that was definitely not anything I had in mind. But to see somebody else's interpretation of that and then your thought process through that is so interesting. And I love the whole, if you don't make manifest the idea, then you'll relinquish it to someone else. I think Rick Rubin talks a little bit about that in his book, The Creative Act, and I think it is so dang true. And I've been that guy where I've had these ideas and I bottled them up and never actually did anything to implement them or execute on them or put them out there. And sure enough, within 6 months or a year, somebody else did it. And I was like, I had that idea first, but it doesn't mean anything because I didn't do it. So I'm glad you did.
Dude, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a real thing that I've seen in my life. If you don't make it, someone else will.
So with this production, obviously there's some complicated stuff. A lot of people who aren't as experienced at editing would be like, how did he do that? So what would you say was the hardest part of either the actual production or the edit itself?
The edit. The production was still a challenge. I was like, oh man, we can do this. We can shoot this in 3 hours. And it was 8-hour shoot.
Everything takes longer.
Yeah, because it was just me and one other guy. Like it was just my buddy Brady Powell, shout out. He was the DP. And I was like, hey man, 3 hours. I bought him dinner. And then it was like, we went until like 3 a.m. We're like, oh my gosh, this is like, and I'm exhausted because I'm like trying to, anyways, do all this stuff and change out of clothes and set up the floating stuff and come up with all that. The edit though, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I was like, I think I could do it. Creating a plate and then masking over, you know what I mean? Cutting out, like that's like as far as I went there. And then I was like, oh man, this is like a whole thing,
Yeah.
So I was just like figuring things out in After Effects as I was kind of going along. And my experience, with editing is kind of like that. And honestly, I had to learn After Effects out of a necessity with some of my past work where I'm like, man, we can't pay to have someone do this. So I just got to figure it out. And that is kind of what I did. So,
Well, I mean, it was awesome, and as somebody who avoids After Effects with everything he has, I was impressed.
oh, thanks,
So
man.
that was awesome. And so within that, kind of, what was your favorite frame or moment from the film?
And my favorite moment is just this stare of disbelief, like this moment of, and I was trying to get to it without being like overacting, because I was also the star in it, so I was like trying to figure that out, but it was like, okay, would you just be in complete shock of what's happened, So that moment where I'm staring at myself, and the person or the thing that took over my body, kind of just gives this small smirk. It's just like, oh. Anyway, so
That's haunting, man.
Yeah, it sucks. Anyway, so yeah, that I think would probably be my favorite moment in there.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved that moment. It was kind of that like, oh shoot moment. Like, what if that happened to me? What would I do? And being left behind like that, that was wild. And for all the filmmakers and individuals who are aspiring to do this kind of stuff, what is the number one lesson that you learned? What's your big takeaway?
It took a lot of hours and because I'm still doing my work, still have my job to do. So I was doing a lot of late nights. I was like, is this worth it? This is just a fun little film festival. It's a minute-long thing. But my biggest takeaway is you don't, especially for directors, or any profession, you only get better at it by doing it. So as much as you think about directing, as much as you watch directors, as much as you whatever, you can't get better unless you do it. And you're going to find quickly that filmmaking is just problem solving. There's always going to be an issue, whether it's pre-production, in production, post-production, all of them. So my biggest takeaway though is just do it. Like, spend the time, you know what I mean? And because you're only going to get better, you're only going to get faster for the next one, and you're going to get more experience, and then you're going to have something to show. And sometimes just treat it like practice. Like, hey, this isn't my best work. This isn't where I want to be. But hey, I had practice, and it was a lot of fun. So that would be my advice, is just do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in the theory rather than the execution. And it is the people who actually do the thing are the ones who actually win in the end. And hey, you won. You won a little award. It was fun. But no, thanks for coming out and making the film festival and just elevating the entire experience. Because again, the goal was to make it low stakes enough and approachable enough that people felt like they could submit. But there were obviously some heavy hitters and some that really stood out as far as professionalism, creativity, stuff like that. And that was definitely yours. So one last question would be, what feedback would you give us, or what would you like to see different in the film festival that we're going to try to host again this fall?
That's a good question. I think the fact that you guys just did it, like kind of what we're talking about, was amazing. And it's so fun to get together with other creatives. I think in the film world, everyone looks at each other as an enemy almost, right? Or as competition. And in a sense, there is a little bit of competition, but it doesn't have to be to the level that I think some people think. And so, I don't know, man. I wouldn't say that you guys really need to do anything different. I think, you just keep on keeping on. The 1 minute was the biggest part of that challenge. It was so hard.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard.
Cut it at 60 seconds. Dang, that was tough. But I feel like if you want to do that again, I think that'd be awesome. It really does push you. It forces creativity in a different way. So, no, I just think I'm just grateful that you guys did it. I think it's so cool. I think it's so cool to connect with other filmmakers. I really do. And so I just say, just keep on doing them, dude. And I'm going to keep on submitting.
That's what I like to hear, man. Well, that's kind of the number one thing of feedback is everyone's like, I loved and hated the 60-second limit. Because at first when you hear 60 seconds, you're like, oh, that's so achievable. And that's like something to get people to be willing to start doing it. But once you get into it, you're like, this is so much harder than I thought.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about maybe doing like a couple different categories. Maybe there's the sub 60-second one, and then maybe there's a little longer version. So
Cool.
We'll play around with it, but I'm excited to have you at the next one, man. So thank you.
No, thank you, man. This has been awesome.
Okay, so Austin, I'm so glad that you're here, and 100% your film earned the award that it got, which was cinematography. Best cinematography. It was so clean. It looked like an actual Apple commercial. So well done, bro. I love that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So obviously want to kind of go back, and when I say it looked like an Apple commercial, obviously it was around the story of an iPhone. Can you tell me, where did your inspiration come with the concept or approach for this film?
So inspiration was the new iPhone had just come out. I'd seen some really cool shots also from the OnePlus Open that had come out. It's tech timber, and I wanted to do a bunch of locked off shots showing the life cycle of an iPhone, but I feel like there needed to be a little bit more substance. And so because I had just upgraded, I was thinking about, man, phones literally, they're brand new, we enjoy them, and then over time we abuse them when they're the old thing, and then we just replace it.
I was like, that kind of sounds similar to sometimes high school or even college relationships where we love the person right off the bat. We have all those like happy feelings. And then over time, maybe there's more arguments and it's not as of a good relationship. So I wanted to tie in, how does an iPhone experience that kind of dating relationship getting replaced? But also, how does this girl in college feel getting replaced by her boyfriend?
Yeah, and I think the duality of the two stories that you kind of told at the same time from both perspectives was really interesting. And you actually did feel kind of bad for that iPhone. That ended up in the drawer. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So next, what would you say was the hardest part of pulling off this production?
I think doing it in one day. We shouldn't have done it in one day, but that was like, I was running up against that initial timeline, was trying to get it done.
Yeah, for those of you watching, Austin was one of the people who actually pulled it off before our December deadline. So bless you for not only pulling it off before then, but then patiently waiting for another 3 months before you could actually premiere it.
At least we premiered it, yeah.
Worth the wait, though.
It was. So yeah, just getting it done in time. And we were also on a trip with FilmLaab. We were doing a little Kanab getaway, and Mike's car broke down. And so I was like an hour or two late. And so I had a great production crew, amazing DP. Everyone like came together and they started filming, and I'm like texting them like directions while I'm on my way back, giving them phone calls. So they helped me pull it off. That was the hardest thing, but it's a short film. It's 1 minute. Like, don't stress about it. And so that was my whole thought process, is just, let's just get it done. It's my first one, and then we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, but I mean, your first one out the gate was phenomenal. We all really enjoyed it. So for you, what would you say is like your favorite frame or favorite moment from the film itself?
I love the locked off shots. That's one of I loved how we were like accomplished that. Pretty much all of those, we were able to rig it where we had the arm come behind the phone and like suction cup onto it and then onto the camera. And then Maggie, our actress, and producer was able to put her hand in between that. So we didn't even have to mask hardly any of those shots. So it looks like perfectly locked off, but people can't tell how it was done. And so we had a lot of questions like, how did you do that? So it's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's really cool. I especially like the one where it like gets thrown or tossed onto the bed.
Yeah.
There's something about that motion I thought was so interesting. And then obviously the final shot I also thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
Which was obviously 3D.
It was.
Which is pretty
Owen
wild.
crushed that. And he didn't spend a ton of time on it. It probably could have been even better, but people didn't even realize that.
No, it was beautiful. He made it very lifelike, very convincing. So obviously everybody listening is probably curious about what lessons or things that you learned. So what's like kind of your one biggest takeaway from shooting your first short film?
I think it's helpful to have a lot of experience before that in production, being on sets. Obviously, I've been on a lot of FilmLaab production sets. I've also been on a lot of other productions. And so just knowing like how the roles work together, I think the organization's huge. Just to start, I feel like that's the biggest thing for me is I've waited so long to do. I had done stuff in high school, but my first like official production, I think I waited too long. I should have done something sooner. I love that we had an excuse to do that because I learned a lot, and now the next one is going to be even better, and the next one and the next one. So that's the biggest thing I learned is just got to start sooner and make more stuff, because then you're going to make cooler, better stuff the faster you go. And working with a great team. I have some really talented friends, and grateful to have those guys behind me because I couldn't have done that by myself.
Yeah, no, I remember, I think a lot of us filmmakers starting out, we want to do everything ourselves. We want to feel like we have all the credit from, okay, I directed this, I shot this, I edited this, I produced this, and all that stuff. But when you mature enough to realize there's a role that you need to play, and what are you especially good at? You know, obviously you had the vision, you knew what you wanted this to be, but you couldn't be the best director if you're also trying to shoot it, if you're also trying to be the talent, you know, all these things. So being able to delegate, one, is a huge lesson that I hope everybody else is hearing, that you don't have to do these things alone, and you shouldn't. But even if you are alone, you can do it. And rather than waiting for the perfect scenario, the perfect time, or the perfect concept, just start. Get out there, create it, make it happen. And I think that is what separates the dreamers from the people who actually achieve and accomplish what they're looking for. And you're an embodiment of that for sure.
Thank you. I love that.
All right, man. Well, obviously, thank you for participating in our first ever film festival. That was so fun. And we're, as you know, because you helped plan it, we're going to be doing another one this fall because I think this one was just so successful. So what advice would you give us, or what would you like to see different in this second film festival that we're going to be doing?
Yeah, I think the biggest things that we learned from is giving people more time would be awesome. So then obviously people know that we've done this. They've seen that it's proven, and obviously we're going to move on to another great film festival. 1 minute is awesome. I think we could do that again, but it'd also be interesting to see what we could do with 3 to 5 minutes, give people more, leeway to, flush out these stories. So maybe rebranding the festival so it can be open to more competitions.
So sub 60 might get nixed and we might have to rework it.
I don't know.
Honestly, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe rebrand it a little bit. Different prompts, I think, would be cool. This was really fun, and having fresh prompts would be awesome. And just having more people involved. Like, I'd love to see even more films submitted. I'd love to see even more creators and filmmakers come out and watch the production, be a part of the whole thing, because I think this could be something really special.
I agree. And I mean, we're going to need a bigger venue next time. Like, shout out to Moto Studios. It was great, but even with like 100 people in there, it was packed.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more people there. So yeah, good call. Love what you said. Well, again, man, thank you for participating, and you definitely deserve the award for cinematography. You're able to have it be bright, and I don't want to say bright and airy because that's such a wedding thing, but it was very bright, but it still felt intentional and well-rounded. So absolutely loved it. You did a great job, and now I'm going to interview the other peeps. Garrett, welcome on, dude. Thanks for making the time to come out here and talk about your film that you and Jordan both kind of co-directed and wrote together. For those of you guys watching, it might be a little jarring because I'm going to talk to Garrett, and then I'm also going to pull Jordan in here because we're just too lazy to set up 3 mics and 3 chairs. That's straight up what it is. But no, man, thanks for coming on, and just really, like, I've always been impressed with your creativity and the things that you do, and just like your little side projects, like the, anti-social media club and like the stuff that I've seen you put out on LinkedIn. Hey, you shouted us out on that. So I appreciate it. But very talented as an artist. So for you and your awesome team to be able to take the time and say, hey, I think this film festival thing's kind of fun. I want to get involved. And for you guys to come in and go so hard and smash it like you did. Obviously, you guys won the grand prize for a reason. It was just the humor, the writing, the whole approach was really interesting. So anyway, I just want to say thanks for coming on, dude. Thanks for being part of it.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and you guys will be able to see the film after this. But let's dive in a little bit talk to me about the inspiration, because that's such an abstract, interesting idea.
It came from a short story. So that's, I have to give credit where credit's due. It came from a short story from this guy, Haruki Murakami. He's a Japanese author. I don't know how I found him, just stumbled on him. And then Spotify's great. You can listen to audiobooks. So I found his collection of short stories and listened to this one short story that's called Confessions of a Shinagawa Monkey. And I just came into work and told Jordan about it. And I was like, let me tell you about this weird story. It's this monkey, dude, and he steals women's names for this kind of pseudo, sexual gratification. And Jordan was like, that's pretty bizarre. And we just kind of went with it. But it all came from this short story that I had listened to, and it's one of those ones. I don't know if you've had this happen to you before, but you read something and you're like, I wish someone made that into a video or a film or something like that. And so this was such a cool opportunity for me to take that. Felt like it was an obscure enough story. Not everyone's read it, right? Oh, yeah. That then Jordan and I could transform it and adapt it into something for the screen. Obviously, it's different. It's a raccoon instead of a monkey. It's not,
it's 1 minute long.
It's 1 minute long.
Right.
There's more to it, but yeah, dude, that's kind of where it came from. So it was definitely an adaptation from a short story. So
yeah, that's so unique, and I think it had kind of that shock factor. Like I had no idea what was happening going into it. And so for you, what would you say was kind of the most difficult part of pulling off the production, pulling off that idea? Because it is abstract.
Yeah. I think what Jordan and I kind of wrestled with was both of us read the short story, and there were like key elements of the story that we wanted to preserve, but obviously the 60-second time frame is short, and so preserving kind of what we felt like were the heart of the short story, but then having a beginning, middle, and end, and being in the 60 seconds, right? That was like kind of the challenge, and I think we did a pretty good job of communicating kind of the weirdness of it. One of the things that I love that Murakami does is it's called, what is it called? fantastic realism or something like that. And what it does is it places these weird elements in the real world. And he just plays it like it's a real thing. You know what I mean? And so that's what I loved about this short story was it's a talking monkey, but we don't dwell on that it's a talking monkey. There's a weirder thing, which is that he steals women's names, right? Like there's a level further. And so that's what I loved about the writing of Murakami. And I wanted so desperately to translate that into the video. I think we did. Yeah, we did an all right.
No, you guys did a good job. I mean, there's a shock factor of the raccoon pushing a cart of food in, but then immediately it felt so conversational. All of a sudden, that was normal.
Yes.
Like it was like, oh, he's just chatting it up with a dead raccoon, which I loved that touch. But and then the weird part is like he steals women. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's that all about? So
who knows?
But I love that. So before we kind of jump over to Jordan for the rest of the questions, I want to ask you personally, what is kind of your main takeaway from kind of creating this film? What's the thing that you learned? Just something, because there's an audience of filmmakers who are curious about this, who maybe wish they would have or want to do the next one.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I learned is this is kind of tough, but it's just kind of talking about stuff. The biggest thing was that I talked to Jordan about it. And then because both of us were kind of, interested in it, then it made it happen. And so it's kind of one of those hard things where and not everyone has this, right? And so this is kind of maybe bad advice, but it's nice to have somebody that you can kind of rely on and trust. That I had total confidence that I could come up with this idea, we could kind of brainstorm it, and then Jordan could really like bring it to life, right? With the writing and with the acting and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the biggest thing is just kind of, just talking to people and trying to connect with people that way. Because so my background is I'm an editor. I don't really touch cameras. I'm not a gearhead. And so surrounding myself with people, shout out to our director of photography, Sam Wood. He's the one who knew the camera. He's the one who set up the shots, made it look great. Jordan is the actor. He's the writer. And then I'm the one with just the weird idea. And so, collecting those people and not being afraid to ask people for help, because you're not going to be able to do everything yourself. It's good to ask people for help and when you can't do it.
I love it. Did you edit this too?
Jordan mainly edited it, and then I did some of the like film grain and some of the like little touches on top. But
I love it. Well, you guys did a fantastic job. I love you, but I'm going to kick you out of that chair.
Okay,
let's get Jordan on in here, dude. This is the freaking writer and the talent, bro.
Here we are, man.
Oh man, you were so great in that, and I know people listening are just on the edge of their seats. So like, okay, what I'm hearing like all this stuff about a raccoon. What is all this stuff? But they'll get to see it on the big screen in just a second.
See it.
So, just a couple like quick follow-ups. Was there anything you wanted to add about kind of just inspiration, how you approached writing this, like adapting this? Because I think that is very challenging, because a lot of us can draw inspiration from places, but then how do you make it your own? How do you synthesize or take an idea and make it its own unique thing?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I was talking to my sister about this because my sister's an author, and so she was like, so how do you go about like transforming like a short story or like a piece of literature into like a short film? And I was like, this is the first time I've ever done it. I don't really know. And so kind of like what Garrett was touching on, where we identified like the key like themes and the elements that we wanted to be in there. Like, okay, so it's kind of normal that he's talking to this raccoon, but then like something weirder happens. And I was just trying to like wrestle with, okay, how do we make sure at the very end, we know that he actually does like steal names, and like there's this ambiguity of, is the raccoon real? Is the raccoon not real? And so just going through that and just kind of like writing a script, because originally we thought maybe like voiceover was the way to do it, because that's how the author portrays everything, is kind of like through voiceover. It's very much like he's looking back on this experience he had like years ago. And so then we started working on that, and I was like, well, because Garrett wrote a first script that was all voiceover, and then we wanted it to play a lot more comedically. I was like, oh, if we want to do it comedically, let's just have some dialogue just actually there. Let's have them talk to each other, and then just have the scenario be weird, but like them talking to each other is like completely normal. So I don't know, it was kind of fun to have like a reference to go off of, and then be able to adapt it and keep the main themes, but then make it your own on top of that. It was really fun.
And again, so unique, and I love the collaboration aspect because a lot of filmmakers, a lot of people, they want to do it all themselves. And so understanding where you're good, what you're good at, and being able to incorporate that and work with other people is huge. And for those people who weren't actually at the film festival, so didn't get to hear, talk about where you got the raccoon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's like kind of an elephant in the room.
It's-
Like, how'd you do that?
So I think originally we were trying to get a monkey. And so I was like, it'd be funny if we had like a taxidermy monkey, just something that like was a little cursed. It just looked a little off. And so we were looking at that. And so I came home and I was telling my wife about it. And I was like, we're making this like weird short story. It's got like a monkey in it, but I don't know if we can get a monkey. Like, what else could we do? And she's like, oh, my dad has like a taxidermy raccoon we could use. It's in my basement. I'm like, what are you talking about? So my father-in-law does taxidermy on the side, had a pet raccoon that died and just decided to immortalize him in this this stuffing. And so I was like, that's perfect. Raccoon, it's devious. He can steal stuff. So I was like, he can be a little bandito stealing names. I was like, it's perfect. So I talked to Garrett about it, showed him the raccoon, and I feel like it just adds. It's like, what is this thing? Like, it looks like a real, because it is a real raccoon. So it's just kind of fun to have that prop really like elevate the production.
Yeah, no, it brought the whole thing to life, and again, it was like, it was funny because it wasn't actually talking, and it was just pure voiceover.
Yeah.
Who did the voiceover again? Was that your brother?
So my twin brother, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he was great.
Yeah. I asked him randomly. I was like, hey, me and my coworkers are making this thing. Could I just have you pull sound and then be the raccoon's voice? And he's like, I don't really know what you're talking about, but I'm there. So it's nice to have him because that's kind of like where my collaboration background is from. I have a twin brother. We've made stuff for forever. And so it's been really easy to understand strengths and weaknesses and then plug and play where those go.
Oh man, well, I absolutely love it. So, basically, I would ask just two more questions. What is the number one lesson you took away from making the short film?
Yeah, I mean, I think just a lot of people have said it, go out and do it and collaborate, talk to people. I think what was really fun about this was me and Garrett's first time working on a project outside of work, and we had talked about it, and I was like, let's just do something. Let's have fun. So it was fun to just work with people you don't normally like haven't worked with, but now it's like, okay, we did this. Like, what's our like next project after that? Because that was like a really fun experience to work together. So I think that's the big thing is just go out and do it. Like, I think high volume, the more stuff you make, the better you're gonna get. So like, just start making stuff. And especially with the 60 seconds, it's like such a low barrier to entry where it's like, okay, that's one shoot day. That could be half a day, could be whole day, depends. And so I think that just taking it and being like, okay, here's our idea. Let's set a day. And then now that we have this deadline, let's go make this thing.
Oh, I absolutely love it. So with that in mind, I think it's great advice. With that in mind, what would you say was your favorite moment in the film?
My favorite moment, I love the 50-50 where I'm sitting on the bed talking to the raccoon on the table just because it's just so bizarre. It's just like, wait, what? And I just love the confrontation, and I'm just like sitting there like, so you work here? Like, what's going on? And I love that shot. I also love the shot where the raccoon, when it first comes in, it's like that double dolly shot of him with the cart just bringing stuff in. I just think it's just a fun shot. It's just takes you like, you're like, whoa, what's going on?
This is happening fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd say those are probably my top two shots on there, top two moments.
I love that. And I know I said two questions, but last one would be, what would you like to see at the next film festival? Whether that's like feedback for us or something that we could take into consideration for this next one we're going to do this fall.
Yeah, I mean, I just love to see more entries. Love to see more people there. I think it would be a ton of fun. And again, just being able to network with people and just be like, hey, we're all doing this, whether it's a hobby or whether it's for a job, but like we all came together and we made these things. Like, let's see all the different work that we did and appreciate them. And so I think that's it. More people got to submit.
That's right. Okay, so we had like 100 people show up in person at the last one. I think we could do double, maybe triple that in the next
Send
one.
it, dude.
Let's freaking go.
To the moon.
And especially the 1 minute films, we could show more of them.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, I love it. And I appreciate the feedback. And again, you guys won grand prize for a reason. It was a fantastic all around film, from the story, the shooting, the acting, all of it. It was well done. So good work on it. And thanks for rolling through, man.
Well, thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Well, I hope that whole experience for you was eye-opening, being able to just get everybody in here. We had Ethan, we had Zane, we had Austin, and we had Garrett, and being able to see their own unique takes on things, the way that they approached it. And overall, it was interesting to just hear about some of the unique challenges that they had and how they were able to overcome them. So a lot of love to these guys, these incredible artists who put some stuff out. We're really, really excited for our upcoming film festival that we're going to be announcing more at a later date, but it's coming this fall. So be on the lookout for it. Again, we want this to be something where you feel like this is low stakes enough for you to be able to want to get involved. We want you, whether you're a veteran in the filmmaking space or somebody just getting started, to feel like this is a place that you can be where you can submit a film and have a chance to get it shown in front of hundreds of people. And for those guys and for those individuals who were able to do that, they said it was an incredible experience. And I know our team at FilmLaab absolutely loved it. So hope to see you guys at the next one. And until the next podcast, peace.